All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at the Volume. Happy Monday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great start to your week. We have a film session coming out later today where I'll go into more detail on the Warriors-Rockets game in particular and a couple other things that I noticed from the film on Sunday. But today I wanted to just give you guys my initial impressions on the 4 game 1s from Sunday. We have the Warriors getting a 1-0 lead on the road in Houston against the Rockets. The Cleveland Cavaliers struggling a little bit with Miami, but closing the deal. The Celtics struggling a little bit with Orlando, but closing the deal. And then an absolute annihilation of the Memphis Grizzlies by the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'll just give my initial impressions on the games from the perspective of both teams. Like I said, more film coming later today, so keep an eye on the feeds. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. It's also super helpful if you leave a rating and a review on that front. Jackson's doing great work on our new social media feeds on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, making content throughout the season. Make sure you guys follow us there. And last but not least, keep dropping mailbag questions in the YouTube comments so we can keep getting to them throughout the remainder of the season. All right, let's talk some basketball. So with Warriors-Rockets, I can't start anywhere other than Steph Curry. I talked a lot about the different dynamics between the two defenses trying to slow each other down, but I thought that was one of the better playoff games I've seen Steph Curry play. When you factor in just how great this Houston defense is, the specific ways they defend him, the fact that in a game like this where there wasn't consistent offense from really anybody else, aside from a few key plays made from a few key Warriors late, it just was a steady diet of really difficult shot making from Steph Curry in this game. And over and over again, he came through to hit a big shot when his team needed him to. There was a couple easy things he was able to find in terms of like sustainability throughout the series. You know, we talked before the series about how the Rockets put Alperen Sengun on Moses Moody and how that kind of disrupts the normal screen game for the Warriors because they want to use Draymond as a screener for Steph Curry, but they're going to try to switch those actions as much as possible, right? So where would Curry go to be able to find the separation that he needs to get more comfortable? Well, Jalen Green ended up being the target through early screens in the possessions to get Jalen switched onto Steph. Jalen was having a hard time staying attached to Steph. He was having a hard time fighting over screens. He was more likely to botch switches. There were so many different things that once Steph got Jalen on him, he had an easier time getting free. And then he had a couple other things, right? He was able to back cut Amen Thompson a couple times. He was able to get free in transition a few times. There was a play where on a made basket, he pushed the ball up the floor so fast that he engaged Steven Adams in a transition cross match and was able to beat Steven Adams off the dribble for a layup. There was another one where Fred VanVleet gambled on him out at half court. He's able to avoid that and get a quick, easy transition three. He found a few easy ones in there, and those will be ones that are more sustainable throughout the series. But it was like unbelievable difficult shot making over and over again. The rainbow over Jalen Green at the shot clock buzzer as he's falling out of bounds. He had a ridiculously tough step back 2 over Dylan Brooks, a ridiculously tough step back to his right over Amen Thompson. The movement 30-footer that he hit, just like running to his right, way above the break off the right side extended. That was a ridiculous shot. He had this like leaner on Fred VanVleet where he pump faked and then stepped through and hit this crazy leaner. He had like reverse layups through traffic. Steph just put on a unbelievable display of difficult shot making. It was almost like you got to see in the last 2 Houston Rockets games like the 2 furthest edges of the Steph Curry experience. The like, can't make shots, but I'm still creating shots for my team. And then like, oh my God, it doesn't matter what you do or where I'm at on the floor. Get ready to take that shit out of the net because it's going in. It was just an unbelievable Steph Curry game. I told you guys before the Jimmy Butler trade that what I was most excited for, and one of the main reasons why I wanted the deal, I obviously saw upside. I believed in the Warriors roster. I thought they just needed secondary shot creation. But I also, as a basketball fan, just wanted more opportunities to see Steph Curry play in high leverage basketball games. And we got to see that tonight, and he put on just another incredible show. And I just really enjoyed watching it. Warriors defense. Steve Kerr in a timeout in the first half said, quote unquote, they cannot score against us unless we turn it over. That really is the theory for this entire series for the Warriors. I talked about it beforehand. Like, there's a lot of ways that Houston can make Golden State uncomfortable. And I have no doubt that throughout the series, they will make Golden State uncomfortable. They made Golden State uncomfortable for extended stretches tonight. But none of that can compare to the damage that Golden State can do to Houston's offense on the other end of the floor. They struggled a little bit with Sengun, but credit to Sengun. Sengun's a really good player. I've said this many times on the show. He was the player this season that in my daily film sessions, I most often would find myself saying, wow, he's really kicking that dude's ass. Like, wow, they're really struggling with Sengun. Like, wow, they really can't guard Sengun. That happened all the time when I was watching them. He's just a really damn good player. We need to give Sengun some credit. But they completely neutralized Jalen Green, played up on him with physicality. I thought Moses Moody did an amazing job on him all night, rushed him into bad drives. Fred VanVleet was the one Houston perimeter guy that I thought got some decent looks, some drop coverage shots and some catch and shoot threes, but he just couldn't hit anything. And by the way, Fred's not a great jump shooter. Fred VanVleet jump shot all season long has been worth less than a point. That's a thing that could happen multiple times in this series. Fred just not being able to hit shots. And that really is the thing. If you can cut Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet out, there's not enough firepower on this Rockets offense. Consistently, I've talked about this year, the Rockets, when they get scoring pop, particularly from Jalen Green, they can beat anybody. They were 13-1 this year when Jalen Green had over 30 points. And a lot of really good teams were victims of those types of performances. But if you can cut the head off the snake, if you can take out Fred VanVleet and Jalen Green, they do not have the firepower to keep up with really anybody, and they completely neutralize those guys. Their zone defense, I talked before the series about how any comments about the zone defense and it bothering the Warriors was insignificant compared to the Rockets being able to score against the zone. And the major run early in the game when the Warriors really started to take their first commanding lead came with the Rockets struggling to score against the Warriors zone look. It's just, they just don't have the offensive firepower to score consistently in the half court against a good defense. And again, I've said this a couple times, the Warriors were quite literally the number one defense in the NBA after the All-Star break. They've been playing at that level consistently since they've identified that they have a real opportunity to win the title here. We did see a late Houston Rockets run fueled by their competitiveness and their rebounding, some transition pushes, Sengun's shot making. The Warriors will have to be careful throughout this series with their discipline. They can lose control of these games fast if they don't stay disciplined in their game plan discipline, take care of the basketball, smart shot selection, avoiding those transition opportunities as much as possible. I thought the closing group played fantastic after Houston made it close, just defending Houston into their worst tendencies, but on the other end of the floor, getting really consistent contributions from the entire group. Moses Moody, who's been really struggling to hit jump shots as of late, hit two massive jump shots, a rescue shot at the end of the shot clock, a little movement, catch and shoot jump shot out by like 17 feet from the basket that he knocked down. And then he hit a huge corner three off of that textbook Steph Curry pocket pass sequence. That was a massive shot to counter a three that Houston had hit. I talked about his individual defense on Jalen Green. Brandon Pajemski in this game, really smart read and react sequences. He had a great one late in the game where he caught Jabari Smith on his backside driving a closeout and just baited Steven Adams into stepping up a little bit and threw a perfect bounce pass to Gary Payton on the baseline, who got to finish. Gary Payton had another transition run out for a bucket, so Gary Payton was scoring. Draymond Green had an offensive rebound put back on another play where Brandon Pajemski came flying in and tapped at the rebound. This in addition to Jimmy Butler being able to go to his step back jump shot to the right and knock it down to rescue some of those possessions. I was on with Colin Cowherd last night, or technically tonight, because that's when I'm recording it. But when I was on with Colin, I talked about how Jimmy Butler has this go-to move that he really started to build out towards the end in Minnesota and showed it quite a bit in Philly and then a lot here in the last few years in Miami and obviously here in Golden State. He can like hit that hard pound dribble in and out with his right hand and cover some ground going to the right and just elevate and square up in midair. And that's a good look for Jimmy. He's going to hit that look at a decent percentage, and he was able to knock that down. Lots of support for Steph Curry down the stretch after he had carried them throughout the game. Really, really impressive stuff. We did get a DMP from Jonathan Kuminga. I think there was probably a game plan there that had things gone worse. like had Houston taken a 10-point lead in the second quarter, I think we probably see Jonathan Kuminga. But I thought Steve Kerr played the right cards tonight, sticking with guys that were going to make fewer mistakes so they can stay out of transition. And for the most part, I understood him sticking with that for now. But to be clear, if it's game two and Houston's up, 37-24 in the early second quarter, I think Steve Kerr's got to pull that card out of the deck and at least try it. He's got to at least give Jonathan Kuminga a little bit of a runway just to see if he can, I don't know, rebound, do something to help the team if they start struggling in that matchup a little bit. With the Houston, again, it just, even as they were knocking on the door, they just couldn't finish it with proper execution. They cut the lead down to 4, and then like Jalen Green tries to drive and shoot a layup through like 5 dudes, and he misses it. They go down to the other end. That was when Potts hit Gary Payton on the baseline. Then Amen Thompson on the next possession drives into traffic and throws a layup literally into the bottom of the rim, leads to a run out there where Gary Payton gets a dunk. Like they just couldn't string together the execution in the half court necessary to score. And that really is the issue. Now, if you're looking for upside, if you're Houston, something to be like, this is a reason why we feel like we have a chance to still win this series. I thought Steph was literally amazing, like one of the better playoff games I've seen him play. Golden State really struggled to score without him making shots. Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet could not have been worse than they were. And Houston's athleticism will travel. It'll travel on the road. They're going to play hard and be a pain in the ass defensively on the glass every single night. Golden State's not going to just get this team to quit eventually because they don't believe they can win. It's going to be a pain throughout. And so, again, there's a way for them to drag this series out and try to wear on Golden State physically. The series is certainly not over. It's always bad to lose game one at home. Trust me, I know as a Lakers fan. But there is an opportunity for them there if they play good defense to try to play Steph into a lower variance game and then to get more out of Jalen and Fred to try to win on the other end of the floor. I just can't predict or expect any example of a situation where the Houston Rockets would out-execute the Warriors 4 times in 2 weeks. It just doesn't seem likely to me. The NBA 82-game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through to the finals, now's the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that does not stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Lock in your bets. Let's make this playoff run unforgettable. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Heat Cavs. Ty Jerome. I talked a lot this year about how he was the best backup guard that I saw in the NBA. He brought this combination of like truly highly efficient scoring. He was 64% true shooting this year, scored at high volume too, about 23 points per 36 minutes, and also brought the playmaking piece, the ability to make the reads that he made down the stretch tonight, like that pick and roll kick out to Sam Merrill or the pocket pass feed to Jared Allen for a layup. He just can be surgical in a way that no other backup guard in the NBA can be. And he went on a wild run down the stretch of this game. Came in a bunch of different ways, too. Like, he started the run in the fourth quarter by hitting a 3 to beat a zone look. Like, he was the inbounder, made a pass, stepped in, beat a zone look, knocking down a 3. He then just started attacking Tyler Herro on a late clock switch. Like 7 seconds on the shot clock. Instead of panicking and attacking a good defender, he waves over Max Strus to get Tyler Herro into the action, gets Tyler Herro, drives on him, and draws a foul on him. Then he started putting Tyler Herro in ball screens, and that was when he really started to victimize him because Tyler Herro was not playing physical on the ball. He was not pressuring. He was just kind of running behind Ty Jerome as he was coming off the screens, and so Ty was able to just make simple decisions. Came off the screen, brought in the low man. Davion Mitchell stepped over too far, rifle pass to Sam Merrill in the right corner. He knocks it down. He hit a floater against drop. He brought Bam up and then threw a perfect pocket pass to Jared Allen, who knocked down a layup. He hit a left shoulder fade over him in an ISO. He just was cooking him over and over again. Eventually, Tyler tried to go underneath a ball screen to try to keep Ty Jerome in front, and Ty just stepped into like a 30-footer off the dribble and he knocked it down. Then finally, the Miami Heat just said, screw it, and they started double teaming, and it was just over from there. They were never able to recover. Even Darius Garland came in and ended up hitting a shot against Tyler Herro in a switch. For the record, Tyler Herro's problems on defense started right from the opening tip. This was not an issue that was just a crunch time issue. He immediately gave up a easy driving dunk out of the right corner to Donovan Mitchell early in the game, gave up an easy closeout to Max Strus for a drop-off for a dunk for Jared Allen. He got back cut by Darius Garland for a floater. He got blown by Darius Garland multiple times. Darius Garland made a layup and missed a layup on easy blow-bys of Tyler Herro. They were even giving up drop coverage buckets with Tyler Herro to Ty Jerome in the first half before we even got to the stuff that we saw in the fourth quarter. So, like, you know, the Heat defense caused some issues for the Cavs in short bursts with their abilities to switch with their bigs. And I thought Davion Mitchell did a really nice job on Donovan Mitchell, just pressuring him and making him work really hard. And the Heat are never going to be a team that goes down easy. They are a super smart team, and they've got some high-level defensive players. And Tyler Herro is a guy that, as you saw, at stretches can knock down shots and drop coverage. And if you leave him open behind the three-point line, he can knock down shots. They have pathways, but they just simply don't have the firepower to keep up with Cleveland. It's a lot of Davion Mitchell running ball screens and like literally initiating offense. It's a lot of like Bam Adebayo taking tough jump shots. It was just really tough. And you know, the Cavs just found solutions. We talked about Herro. Donovan Mitchell finally stopped trying to go at Davion. It almost was like Donovan was taking it personally with Davion and like, you're wearing my number and my last name, I'm going to try to beat you. It was kind of weird. And then as soon as he stopped going at Davion and started going at others, he started to have more success. Evan Mobley did a really nice job of beating switches by inside seal attacks. He had a dunk on one of those in the first half. He scored out of the post against a switch. Like, they just have a lot of answers because they've got a lot of guys that can play at a really, really high level. Super, super impressive game one victory for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Celtics-Magic. This game went basically exactly as I expected it to. The Magic are the second best defense in basketball behind the Thunder. And they have a lot of guys who can switch and guard multiple positions. And so they can switch, contain, stay home, take away some of the catch and shoot looks, play Tatum and Brown into really high difficulty ISO basketball. They don't have the offense to be able to hang in this series, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But they have the defense too. If they can improve over the next couple of years, and if Jalen Suggs can get healthy and get back on the floor, that's a team that could present problems for Boston in the big picture if they can polish up things on offense. But they're just not close to that yet. They held Tatum and Brown to 33 points on 36 shots. That's great. But outside of a second quarter stretch where Paolo got really hot from three, a couple other guys hit some threes, the Magic failed to score 20 points in 3 of the 4 quarters. And that was really the difference. I thought Jrue Holiday was the defensive hero of the game. Coming out of the half, so Orlando goes on their big run right before the half. Then there's a couple mistakes. Paolo has a turnover that leads to a foul. They cut it to 1. But Orlando goes into the half up 1. They've got the momentum. Their bench is all excited. Jrue Holiday came out to start the second half and just started ball pressuring the hell out of Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero and just was messing those dudes up, forcing turnovers, forcing missed shots, running out the other way and hitting transition threes. Transition threes. You talk about it feeling like a shotgun blast to the chest. Imagine being on the other side of that. You're attacking a small in a mismatch. Next thing you know, that dude's taking the ball away and going the other way and hitting a three. It just unbelievable, momentous plays from Jrue Holiday. And again, Jrue, in terms of just fundamental skill, is one of the best like rhythm or base attackers that I've ever seen from a perimeter defender. This is what makes him so good at guarding bigger players. I've talked about this all the time. Bigger players, especially shot makers, they don't see the hand in the face. They've practiced hitting shots with hands in their face their entire lives. What you can do though is you can bother their rhythm. There's an energy transfer. If you calculate it, it's like if you try to chain it all together, I should say, the handle connects to the footwork. And then when you get into the shot, that connects upwards in your energy transfer from the ground as you're jumping up through the release. And you chain all of that together through reps. You go in the gym and you just do all these reps, ball handling and shooting out of all these different bits of footwork. These post players, they're looking at, oh, you're attacking a small. I'm trying to bump you and get to my left shoulder hook or my right shoulder fade or whatever it is that they're trying to get through, or a step through move, something along those lines. And they practice those moves and they practice those moves and they practice those moves. And if you let them get to their footwork, they're going to make it. But if you can disrupt them, if you can stab at the basketball and disrupt the ball handling a little bit, if you can bump their base and disrupt the footwork a little bit, as they're jumping, if you lean on them a little bit so that they're losing a little bit of that balance as they go up into the shot, on their gather, if you swipe down and you deflect the ball a tiny bit, if you disrupt something along that chain, it will have a far greater effect on the end result than you just standing there and putting your hand up at the end after not disrupting anything else. And Drew's just really, really good at that, stabbing at the ball, disrupting the base, being physical, jumping one side, then jumping all the way to the other side to try to catch a guy off guard. He did that a few times to Paolo and France today. Like, he just is an unbelievable size mismatch defender. And that was a huge weapon for Boston in the second half of this game. Derek White brought the volume scoring for the Celtics today, and it came in the form of shot making. He had 7 threes, but most of them were high degree of difficulty threes, so like an extra step behind the line or against a great contest. And again, when you're playing against great defenses like the Orlando Magic in a high leverage situation like this, on many of your possessions, the best shot you can get is a mildly contested, slightly deeper three. And like Derek White provided that scoring pop today in a game where, again, when you're playing in games like that, games like the Rockets Warriors series, threes are like touchdowns. Like, they're literally like touchdowns because no one can score. And Derek White just brought that today. I think this series is actually a great tune-up series for the Celtics. They're not in any real danger. I mean, I saw enough today to feel like Orlando can steal a game. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Orlando won a game, 93 to 87 down in Orlando in game 3 or game 4. But they don't have the firepower to win the series. But the Magic present real problems for the Celtics offense, and that will help them prepare for an OKC matchup should they meet in the finals. It's just great preparation for them. They just need to hope that Tatum's wrist is okay, but I think he's fine. But after the hard foul from KCP, it was just something to keep an eye on. And it was a shooting wrist, which can always be a little tricky when you need Tatum to be a shot maker for you. All right, before we get out of here, again, I'll be back later today with some more film, but let's talk some Grizzlies Thunder. I didn't have a chance to do series previews for my 2-1-8 matchups. I would have picked the Thunder to beat the Grizzlies in a sweep, and I would have picked the Cavs to beat the Heat in 5 games either way, but it doesn't really matter. This Grizzlies team has been bad for a while. They were just 13 and 18 over the last 21 games to end the season. They were 16th in offense in that span and 19th in defense. They're not good at anything. None of their stars is playing particularly well. They were the one team in that cluster of teams, the 8 teams that made the Western Conference playoffs. They were the one team that stuck out like a sore thumb. And boy, did they look like it today. I want to shout out the OKC Thunder first for the level of intensity that they brought right out of the gates today. I was talking in my film session this morning about the intensity of the playoffs. I lamented that last night teams like the Bucks and Lakers were just not ready for playoff intensity. Before I even watched the Thunder game today, I was recording the film session, and when we were done, we were just waiting for a file to upload, and Jackson and I were just talking and hanging out. And Jackson goes like, "Hey man, like, how are you feeling about the Lakers after watching that game?" I said, like, there's obviously some things that are that they can improve in terms of execution, in terms of just meeting the playoff intensity and all that kind of stuff. But what I said to Jackson was like, I'd be lying to you if I wasn't super concerned that they didn't come out with that intensity. Like I said in the show last night, like, they're not going to give you the Larry O'Brien trophy without putting in the work. You're not going to coast to the Larry O'Brien trophy. You're not going to finesse your way to the Larry O'Brien trophy. It is won through super intense, hyper competitive basketball from day one of the NBA playoffs. And so I said in that moment to Jackson, like, I am discouraged that a team that I believe in, that I believe has a real chance to win the title, came out for their first playoff game and just looked completely unprepared for the intensity. That was before I watched the Thunder game. I walked out of that conversation with Jackson, sat down on my outdoor couch. It was a beautiful day here in Tucson, and I'm sitting down and I just watched OKC come out, and they said, We are treating this like they OKC has talent to coast against Memphis. They could ease their way into the second round. Fuck that. They're like, we're going to embarrass the Memphis Grizzlies today. They brought that level of intensity. They seem abundantly clear on what is expected of them to be able to win 4 playoff rounds. And I just thought that was a valuable check mark in this process. They did not ease their way in. They didn't even show some of the just level of general discomfort that they showed against the Pelicans in game 1 last year. They look like a team that knows exactly what they're trying to accomplish and how great they will have to be to get there. I even thought the Celtics came out with a little bit of like a let's beat the Magic but not overextend ourselves doing it type of energy. The Thunder did not. They met the moment and they embarrassed the Grizzlies. The run really took off with the bench group led by Cason Wallace and Jalen Williams. They repeatedly made plays on defense that led to runouts. Cason was amazing. He had Scottie Pippen Jr. in hell. He had a ridiculous transition dunk. I've always known Cason's a good athlete that can dunk the basketball, but he had one in traffic in transition that was ridiculous. He's hanging on the rim after. Defense to transition was the primary storyline of this game. The Thunder forced 24 turnovers. They generated 24 points off of those turnovers. They won the transition points advantage. They won the transition points battle per synergy 31-8. Out of OKC's 120 possessions they logged in the game, 48 of them were on transition pushes. As I've talked about, generally it's like around 20% of your offense that's going to end up being in transition in the NBA. OKC just played 40% of their game in transition. But the Thunder were also surgical in their half-court playmaking. Memphis has always been an overhelp team. This is something I've been complaining about with them for years. They consistently are aggressive in their nail help, meaning like if the guy's driving off the left wing, the defender guarding the guy in the right wing will be sitting like damn near at the elbow, like on the strong side elbow or like at the foul line, like just sitting there in like a soft double team. They'll hard low man help. So like the guy guarding the guy in the weak side corner will be all the way over. If you move the ball against the Grizzlies, you will get open threes. The Grizzlies allowed 16.4 unguarded catch and shoot jump shots per game this year, which was the third most in the entire NBA. And the Thunder just made them pay for it. They consistently made simple reads in traffic, generated a ton of great looks. They generated 16 unguarded catch and shoot jump shots compared to just 5 for Memphis. They shot them at a super high clip. They got 1.69 points per jump shot on those unguarded catch and shoots. They had 37 assists on 50 made field goals. The Thunder were bottom 5 in assist percentage this year. It's a big part of why, like I've actually talked about, I've been worried about the Thunder against teams that pack the paint, especially teams that can protect the rim, just playing right into the teeth of the defense and not making those reads. I thought today was a very, very important. There will be harder tests than what OKC faced today. That's not exactly rocket science. Memphis has been a mediocre to bad basketball team for a while, but today was a test for their decision-making, and they aced that test. And they did it with Shea going 4 for 13 from the field. I just thought it was a statement about how ready this Thunder team is for this playoff run. On the Memphis front, I've been talking for a while about how their shot creators just aren't good enough. Ja hasn't made a single tangible improvement to his game in 3 years. Bane really struggles to create quality shots against elite defense, and Jaren Jackson a complete no-show today. Ja was able in his first shift to create some advantages, but he still just has that one athletic superpower, and OKC was eventually able to contain him because he can't shoot. He's 1 for 6 from 3. And then as soon as Ja went to the bench, it was a steady diet of that Scottie Pippen Jr. and Desmond Bane unit. They couldn't even score, and they got blitzed. If Memphis gets swept, which I think they will have finished the season 14-23 in their last 37 games. You have to think they'll be contemplating some massive changes to the roster if that happens, which I believe it will. All right, guys, that's all I have for tonight / this morning for you guys. I am waking up first thing in the morning, and I'm recording a film session that should be uploaded around like 10:30, 11 Pacific time, so keep an eye on that as well. Our coverage continues tomorrow night with Game 2 of the Pistons-Knicks series, as well as the Clippers-Nuggets series. We'll be live on YouTube after the final buzzer of that as well. 2 days down. I'm a little tired, but this is It gets a little bit easier with each passing day. I was talking with Colin and the guys tonight. Like the first 2 days, that first Saturday, Sunday is by far the hardest stretch of this season or of this playoff run because it's 8 games. Every one of them matters. Every series is 0-0. It's your first impressions. You get to second weekend, the 1-8s are not any good anymore, right? Usually, like I expect Cleveland to be up 3-0. I expect the Thunder to be up 3-0. It gets a little easier. You go to the following weekend, you're getting into the second round. Now it's like there's only 2 games a night. You get in the conference finals. It gets a little bit easier as we go along. But man, that first weekend is always tough, but we've made it through and we are ready to continue our process as we go through the week. I'm very, very excited to continue to get into this with you guys. I appreciate you guys for rocking with us. We're about to pass 100,000 subs. That's pretty fucking cool. I'm super excited about that. I have you guys to thank for that, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys for supporting the show. Weekend 1 in the books. I'll see you tomorrow morning for some film.